Hello, travelers. Boardman21 here, and today's build is the Vines with the Spriggan Form, and the Vines, instead of slapping and doing melee damage, will be doing spell Thorn physical damage. Basically, what that means is we're just making the Thorns range. Now, I was recently asked to go back and redo, or at least update, my Vines build, and I'm glad that I did because I found out some things. One being the Thorn totems, the healing totems that can take the Thorn skill tree, now actually heal you. This was bugged before, but they actually heal you now. Now, the reason why this is a big deal is because this makes your survivability go way, way up. Not only are they going to heal you, they're healing all nearby enemies, so your vines will constantly be healed. So now we can have our 6 totems or healing totems out, and this is going to cover all of our physical and elemental resist. It's also going to give us mana back, so you can still set it up to where Thorn Totem skill tree gives you mana back per totem, and since we're casting it with the cost of the Thorn Totem, so this is where it gets confusing. Thorn Totems is a single totem, but your healing totems summon 3 at a time and use the tree. So while it uses the Thorn Totem tree cost of about 10 if you take the mana efficiency, you actually get 12 back per totem. With 3 totems, that's 36 mana back, so every time you cast it, you get back 26 mana. So you can have unlimited mana, which means you don't have to use the belt to get mana back inside of Spriggan Form. You can have Spriggan Form unlimited uptime, and you can have a ton of mana, which means you can spam more vines and more healing totems, more root wall, more veil blast. You can do more of all of it than you could before because you basically have unlimited mana. So again, the healing totems use the Thorn Totem skill tree. They're going to shred armor for you. They're going to give you your resistances. And then on top of all that, they're going to give you mana back. Now for the vines, they're going to attack from range, and they scale with physical damage, spell damage, and minion damage, all of which is all minion tags, not yours. So we ourselves are not going to be doing any damage. We're just focused on summoning the vines. But because we can summon so many of them and they attack really quick, and we're summoning 5 of them at a time, their damage stacks up immensely, and you can see they just wipe through everything in just seconds. So let's go into the skills, the interactions, and just how it all works. Alright, for skills, I'm running Spriggan Form, Summon Thorn Totem, and Ice Thorns. You'll see I have 2 empty slots. We're literally running nothing in them. Now, you could run a companion if you wanted, or 2 companions if you really wanted, but you're going to find that you're constantly having to either try and keep them alive, go back to revive them, or leave Spriggan Form to resummon them if they disappeared, which is just a quality of life nightmare. So until the transformations get updated in the future, there's really no other things that you can use here. You could have Maelstrom proc from idols, but we're using our idols for other things, so there's really nothing else for you to use. So we're using Thorn Totems, which will be the only reason we're using them, even though we don't have idols, we're not doing hits ourselves to proc them. The healing totems will use the skill tree. For Ice Thorns, we're just having this to where when we get hit, they have a chance to proc. They actually have a really good chance to proc because we will have more than 2 active totems, so they'll actually have a total chance of about 60 to 65% chance. And then, of course, you just have Spriggan Form, and that's it. Those are the only 3 skills that you need. So to cover them, for Spriggan Form, we have this set up for the vines, as many vines as possible, for a chance for them to be summoned when they die off, for them to be ranged, and then, of course, for the healing totems to take the Thorn skill tree. So we got 5 points in Thick Tendrils. This gives you more vine damage, more vine health. 2 points in Bind for additional vines to be summoned. So instead of 3, we'll now have 5. 1 point in Razor Vines. They now attack with a Thorn that deals spell, physical damage, and it pierces. That's the best part. It pierces. So you have 5 vines out shooting in 5 different directions, or 5 at the same enemy. And all of those vines will pierce, which means you can wipe out whole AoE crowds really, really easily. Now, don't get confused. It does say that the scaling tags are your scaling tags, and when you increase your own damage, they will go up a little bit. Don't be fooled by that. That's a bug. They do indeed scale with minion stats, not your stats. So don't be trying to up your stats. You want minion damage, minion physical damage, minion spell damage. We have 5 points in Creeping Vines, so that there's a 25% chance when a batch of your 5 vines die off, that you'll summon another 5 in their place. Then we have 2 points in Reinforced Totem, 1 point in Spike Totems, that your healing totems summoned by the Summon Healing Totem skill tree shoot Thorns. They will use the Thorns Totem skill tree. The mana cost, the cooldown, all of the limits, everything in that skill tree will be used by them. And then we have 4 points in Unbound Garden so that we can control additional healing totems, and we will cast 3 of them per cast. So you can have up to 6 of them, and we can cast them out twice. It'll only take 2 casts to hit your maximum 6. Casting again unsummons the previous 3, which then gives you all of the mana. And I'll show how that works here in the Summon Thorn Totem tree. So for Summon Thorn Totems, we have this set for the mana efficiency. Our cost is only 8 mana. That's right. So to cast 3 healing totems out, 1 cast of healing totems, it's going to cost 8 mana. Then when they disappear with 3 points in Memories of Edera, we gain back 12 mana per totem. So it costs 8 mana to summon them, we get back 36. That's a 28 net profit of mana every time that we cast them. And that's how we keep our mana full. Then we've got 1 point in Ancient Power, 2 points in Impale, 2 points in Shred Armor, so that the Thorns coming ahead of your healing totems have a chance to shred armor for you, which is going to make the vines hit harder. 3 points in Torrent of Thorns for extra projectiles, and 4 points in Lethal Thicket, so they have a chance to crit and deal additional increased damage. Then for Ice Thorns, like I said, they're basically going to proc when you get hit, and they're going to give you a little bit of armor. That's basically all we're using them for. We got 3 points in Dagger Thorns, 2 points in Bramble Armor for a 20% chance to cast when hit, another 4 points in Spell Thorns for another 20% chance to cast when hit, 3 points in Ritual Briar, and 6 points in Thorn Shaper, so when we have 2 idols or 2 totems or more active, which you'll have 3 to 6 of them active at all times, we'll have an additional 30%, so that's a total of 70% chance when you get hit for it to proc an Ice Thorn. Then we have 1 point in Nim Affiliate and 1 point in Thorn Shield. So when it's procced, for each one that gets procced, we'll get 40 flat additional armor, which is really nice when it gets a little bit more tanky. And then again, you can run anything you want in these other 2 skill slots. If you run Companions, you're going to have to summon them when you're in human form. If they die off, you'd have to leave Spriggan. And as a permanent Spriggan build, it's just why I left them empty. You don't need them. For passives, I have 20 points in the base Primalist class, with 8 points in Natural Attunement, 1 point in Primal Medicine, 5 points in Hunter's Restoration, and 6 points in Wisdom of the Wild. You want to get as much attunement as possible, which is going to give you additional mana, but it's going to increase the damage of your vines, and you want as much health as possible. That's basically what we're going for in all of our passives. We've got 15 points in the Druid, with 7 points in Bark Skin and 8 points in Woodlore. This gives us Vitality, Poison Resist, it gives us Bark Skin, will give us Endurance and flat armor. These 15 points are so that we can unlock the Spriggan Form. We have 22 points in the Beastmaster, with 8 points in Yrsane's Strength, 5 points in Boarheart, 2 points in Call of the Pack, 1 point in Porcine Constitution, and 8 points in the Chase for that 32% minion cast speed, so the vines can actually cast faster. And then we have 52 points in the Shaman, our master class, with 8 points in Shamanic Infusion, 8 points in Ancient Stones, 2 points in Stormbringer, and 5 points in Avatar of Thunder. That minion spell lightning damage does increase their damage by a little bit, so they do hit a little bit harder, so it's worth it. 8 points in Earth and Supremacy for more attunement. 8 points in Ruin of Awe. This gives your minions adaptive spell damage, so they actually get 16 physical spell damage thanks to this node. 5 points in Protective Circle. This is what gives you the resistance and elemental resistance, or physical and elemental resistance per totem you have active. So with this, you'll cover all of your physical and elemental protections when you have 3 to 6 totems active. And 8 points in Elemental Shrines for even more attunement. The mana regen, of course, doesn't affect you when you're in a Spriggan form. For idols, items, blessings, and uniques, this build requires 0 uniques. There are some that you could wear. I'll go over those and have a list of them in the written guide as well as in the description. For instance, you could get rid of a 2-handed staff and wear a 1-handed weapon. You could wear the Reach of the Grave to get spell damage for your vines. And then, of course, that would let you put on a shield. You could wear a shield such as the Bastion of Honor and have 100% block against nearby enemies' hits, which would be making you really, really tanky. But for this build, we're not wearing any of them. We have some 1x3 idols that have shared spell damage, so your minions will get increased spell damage. The vines will do increased spell damage. We can fit 4 of those on, along with 4 health increased and flat hybrid idols. This allows you to have a ton of extra health, so that your Thorn totems or healing totems converted into will be able to heal you for more and keep that life full. And you'll have a ton of it, so you'll have a high threshold for good old EHP. For our items, nothing special. You want 2 suffixes on your 2-handed staff or whichever weapon you decide to go for, and it's going to be increased physical minion damage and increased spell minion damage. Increasing the cast speed is, of course, nice as well, because it will allow you to cast faster when you're casting the vines and casting the healing totems. You don't need the increased spell critical strike chance. It's just there. The second prefix is your choice of anything that you like. Basically, you're just stacking a ton of attunement, a ton of health, and covering your necrotic, your poison, and your void resist, as well as your endurance and critical strike avoidance. That's all that you need on your gear. No plus levels to anything, no super rare fixes. Everything you need is pretty easy to gather. Again, just stacking attunement and minion damage. You don't have to do any other minion stats like minion dodge or minion health and minion regen. All you need is minion damage. That's it. For blessings, nothing special, nothing makes or break the build. Go with anything that makes you feel tankier. That's really all you have to go for, and you'll feel a lot better with it and doing power content much better the tankier that you get. For the character sheet, you can see we have just about 3,000 health. That'll actually go up once you transform, since you get some extra stats in transformation. You'll see we're capped on all resistance except for our elemental and physical, but again, once I transform into the Spriggan form here, you can see our health jumped up. But as you summon those healing totems, boom, you're going to get all of your resistances capped out, except for missing a little bit of void. We have a little bit of armor, and then for damage types, again, our damage doesn't really matter. For the minion damage types, you can see we're sitting at just about 1,000% minion spell damage. Some of that comes from idols, some of it from passives, most of it from that global minion damage increase that we get on our gear. And then for defense, we do have our capped endurance and capped critical strike avoidance. So for skill rotation and how to play the build, it's really simple. You literally just cast vines and you cast healing totems. I tend to do 2 vines to 1 cast of healing totems, so just a 2-to-1 ratio, and you literally just keep going forward. Now again, the training dummy does not count as an enemy, so I can't get them to attack it, so you won't be able to see damage here, but you can see that in the gameplay. But you just kind of speed run through by going vines, vines, healing totems, vines, vines, healing totems. It's really that simple, that easy. For leveling this build, this is one you kind of have to transition to a little bit later. You don't get Spriggan Form until you get 15 points in the Druid, which is going to be after you get your Mastery, so level 35 or so. But as soon as you get the Spriggan Form and you get a few points into those vines, it's just going to take off. So the first 3 skills that you'd want to spec into, you're going to want the Thorn totems, you're going to want the Ice Thorns, and you're going to want the Spriggan. However, early on, you might want to spec into something else, have a pet out to help you, level up. But overall, it should come together by about level 40 and then take off. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, stay safe and enjoy some gameplay.